I will now discuss the Mega Man Zero series, which I finally fucking played through with the Legacy Collection earlier this year. I'll say, actually, so made some notes once again. I wanted to talk about the collection itself, I guess. See, I mean, as someone, if you're watching or listening to this, you'll know I also made a video or podcast or whatever, sort of at the same time about console modding. I also did the playing games on real hardware thing like a while back. You'll know I try to just own every fucking console. I try to have like the best way to play every game. The Zero series was not necessarily like a series where I needed a collection, right? Personally, I already had ways to play it. I'll say, okay, so the Wii U, for example, on the Wii U you have you have the GBA Virtual Console, and those ports are very excellent. Like, the games look very good, they're scaled properly, the input lag is very low. You have a lot of controller options as well on the Wii U. I like that you can play with the Wii Classic controller, for example. It's pretty great. But like, I mean, I owned 0, 1 through 3 already, I think, on the Wii U. I had not bought 0, 4 yet, but I was like ready to play them. And then I had like the whole Game Boy player thing with my modded GameCube and all this stuff. But then, I thought a collection, it's like convenient, whatever. I don't care. I'll say, as far as the Mega Man collections go, yeah, like that. It's definitely vastly better than the X collection. And I'd say it's probably slightly better than the Mega Man Classic collections as well. I think the second Legacy Collection, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, so the one with 7, 8, 9, 10, is kind of wonky. The first one was pretty good. Like, the first one, there's nothing really you can complain about. I'd still say the Zero Collection probably still the best one overall, because it just adds some nice tweaks to those games that are pretty appreciated. I think it's very cool, so I mean, this is more generally talking about it, that they actually, it's not emulated at all. It's actually, like, the games, I think there have been traces found in the PC version that the games are genuine ports. They're actually ported to the MT Framework engine, and then they just run on whatever fucking console you're playing the game on. That's really cool, and you don't really see that, and it lets them do things you're not really used to from emulators. They definitely took some liberties with kind of how they present the game. Generally, input lag is very low. The Zero games look very good. I'll get to ZX. Actually, no, let me just talk about it right now. I've discussed a lot this idea of, like, pixel scaling in games, that, a pixel is a square, and then you have to increase the size of the pixel in even intervals, so times 2, times 3, times 4. If you do an arbitrary scale, like times 4.7 or something, so that it maybe matches the exact height of your screen, the pixels will just get super screwed up, and it will look really bad. And what's very unfortunate is that with the ZX games, there's a lot of different screen settings, but none of them actually scale the image correctly. Like, all of them just have some amount of uneven pixel scaling, and to me, it just makes the games look horrible. Like, it's, and I mean, I have not played through the ZX games yet, but like, that was one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I'm not gonna use this collection to play them, which is very unfortunate, because obviously everything else about the collection is so nice, and they actually, you know, like I said, they're genuine ports, so they actually, what they did is they had the ability to swap out both the audio and video files. So for the FMV cutscenes in the ZX games, they actually swapped them out for higher quality versions. And that's like so cool and so nice, but alas, it's wasted because just, you know, just the games themselves, they, to my eyes, they look terrible. I think a lot of people will play the ZX games in the collection and they will think it's fine. Like, they will not really see the issue. And I guess, you know, if it doesn't bother you, then, you know, I can recommend it. There's also some, like, yeah, minor niggles I have even with the Zero games. For example, you have these moments where, I guess they're essentially cutscenes, right? They're not, I mean, they're like big, sort of beautiful anime still images, like done in pixel art, obviously, because it's on GBA, that kind of tell the story. And they applied to those this like HQ2X filter that you'd see on an emulator. Like, that filter looks disgusting, obviously, and it's available sort of generally for the game when you play it. You can just put it over the whole game if you're a fucking freak. But even if you disable it, it's still applied. It's still like hard, just applied over the stills. And I think that also has just to do with the nature of how the game kind of works, how it's ported. Like, because it's not just the GBA version, they actually, I think they genuinely just converted the stills into, like, separate files, like, separate image files. And then just applied the filter to them, like, sort of in the fucking editing process. And, like, I mean, technically it makes sense because the game defaults to the filter, right? It, like, when you first boot it up, the filter is applied. So clearly that was, like, their intended method to play it. But obviously it looks like fucking garbage and you don't want to play it, and it's... no, stop, don't do that. It's just... It's really puzzling to me that with the Zero games, like 1 through 4, they included an option to have proper pixel scaling so that the games look correct. But then with the ZX games, they didn't include it. It's just so odd. And it's very disappointing and frustrating because I would like to enjoy the higher quality sound and the... you know, the better FMVs. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna play them on the Wii U instead. They're not, you can't actually buy them on the Wii U, but if your Wii U is modded, you can play them on there using Nintendo's official emulator. And what's curious is that that emulator also actually does not scale the games correctly. However, you can just edit the file. Like, you can get the ROM for the game, put it in this like Nintendo emulator, and then edit this configuration file to just change the screen settings. And basically, I tested recently, and like I managed to scale it correctly, and like it looks perfect now. And that's the way I'm gonna play it. So maybe ZX review sometime. Who knows? I'm actually really interested in ZX. Like, those games feel really crunchy, and they look very good graphically. I mean, the Zero games graphically, to me, are not super impressive. I'm gonna talk about this more as we go on. They're definitely not my favorite looking Mega Man games. I do think the art style generally, like the aesthetic of the Zero series, is very cool. Also an acquired taste, I guess, of course. Like, I know the Zero series kind of divides a lot of Mega Man fans. Like, it's the point where it does continue Mega Man X, right, in a way, but I can see a lot of Mega Man X fans just not taking to the art style and, like, just the tone of the Zero series. Personally, I really like it, though. I think it's very cool that they added a new checkpoint system. So, I mean, the games have checkpoints and they have lives and stuff, but basically there's an optional feature where they add new checkpoints that are a little bit more frequent and that don't use lives, so you can just die as many times as you want. I'm gonna talk more about the significance of that later as well. Well, I was going to talk about that, but then as I, was cutting the audio for this, to release it, actually, I realized I forgot to talk about it. Basically, the thing about, like, why this checkpoint system is good, is, because, so, I talked about this with the Mega Man series in general, with classic Mega Man in my Mega Man 11 video, saying Mega Man a lot, basically this idea that the lives exist because, if you didn't run out of lives, you would not have a reason to leave the stages, right? The lives are sort of a way to tell you, okay, maybe you're not ready for this yet, you should probably leave. You should probably go somewhere else first. The thing is, though, in the Zero series, that idea just doesn't really apply at all. It doesn't really make sense because, like, just the way the weaknesses work is super different. You generally, going to a different stage doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have an easier time with another stage. There's not this direct relationship where doing this stage first will directly make this next stage a little bit easier. That doesn't really exist because of how the weapons work and stuff. But then also, the game doesn't even give you the option to leave when you lose all your lives. It doesn't even, it doesn't even let you leave the level, period. You can only leave the level when you're replaying it. That's, like any other time, the option to leave the level is grayed out. But even when you die, you can't actually leave the level. You have to reload a save, or you have to keep going. And then, I mean, that's the thing, like, because the Zero games have so much grinding and shit, you don't really want to load your save. You want to fucking just keep going and, just retain your progress. So this whole system, like, does not really make sense, and that's why I'd say, fuck it, just go with the checkpoints. Just do the fucking checkpoints. The new checkpoints in the Legacy Collection. To me, it's just a way fucking better system, and, yeah, I guess, honestly, it definitely made the series a little bit more palatable. I think that's, like, the biggest reason why I would actually recommend the Legacy Collection, and maybe I did mention this in the later part of this podcast thing or whatever, but, like, yeah, like the checkpoint thing alone is, like, maybe a reason to play it over, other methods, like, playing it on the Game Boy player, playing it on an emulator, playing it on the Wii U, stuff like that, or original hardware, yeah, so that's the thing, if you're playing the Zero series for the first time, don't be ashamed to, like, just use the checkpoints. To me, it made those games more fun, and, like, it matched the pace of those games better. Yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Thank you. So yeah, they added some pretty nice stuff. The fucking, I just paused the recording, then started again, and then the guy starts hammering outside. Sorry about the noise. Yeah. There's like a time attack kind of thing as well, where you just basically speed run, this boss rush. I haven't really messed around with it. And one of the main reasons for that is, like, you can't change your button layout in this separate mode. The mode is called the Z challenge, I think. You can change your button layout in the actual games, but not in this fucking mode. And it's so weird. And, like, there's just a lot of little things with this port that seem like they would be so easy to fix. And they just didn't, I think they patched the game, like, once to fix some, like, critical bugs, but everything else is just the same as before. And it kind of sucks that it's just another sort of Capcom remaster that, like, has a lot of issues, and, like, they just get away with it, because they always do this thing of, like, maybe if you want to see that series return, maybe you should buy it. And I think, personally, I do not believe in that at all. I think you should respect yourself a little bit more than buying a shitty game just to, like, for the vague promise of getting a new game that may not be shitty, right? You don't even know if it's not gonna be shitty, you know? That's the weirdest part. There's like, there's no, like, if you buy something on the promise of like a new game, there's not even a guarantee that the new game is gonna be good. It's just so, like, I mean, Shenmue is like, I mean, I haven't played Shenmue 3, but a lot of people do not seem very happy with it. I was not really impressed with what I saw. And it's like this thing where, I mean, obviously Shenmue 3 was already financed by that point. And I think, yeah, Yu Suzuki, he did not really have anything to do with the remaster, right? But then that remaster is a good example, right? Like, it's a shitty remaster that had a lot of problems that they never really fixed. And then fucking, I mean, and people still buy it because they're like, oh, you know, gotta support Shenmue. It's just such a fucking, like, the logic of that really escapes me. It's just, I think it's people with too much money and, like, no respect for themselves, who do this sort of thing. And, like, you have to just imagine, right? Like, a game like Resident Evil 4. Every version sort of since, like, every version except the GameCube and the Wii versions, is not good, right? They have a lot of fucking flaws. And they don't feel like Resident Evil 4. Like, they don't transport the same feeling, and they control weirdly, and, like, everything about them is, like, just weird. With the Wii version, big disclaimer, play it with a controller. Don't play it with the Wii remote. Well, I mean, the Wii remote is fun. You could do it for, like, a playthrough, but it's not the intended experience. But if you play it with the controller, it's very equivalent to the GameCube version. And I would personally still recommend that method. So this is like one of the most significant, fucking biggest, most popular games. And if you want to play it right now, every version of it, every version on like modern consoles or like on PC is not good, right? And like, what is the incentive for Capcom to make a good version of Resident Evil 4? If we still buy it anyway, if there's not like, if we're not really conscious of these issues, if there's not really like a public kind of understanding for what's wrong with those ports, you know? That's why I think people just don't analyze their own purchasing habits and like how destructive their purchasing habits can be, right? Obviously, I'm not directly exempt from this either, right? I bought the Mega Man Legacy Collection, the Mega Man X Legacy Collection. Instantly regretted it. I don't care that it may finance like a new Mega Man X. I think that's the thing. I mean, Mega Man 11 was great, right? But also the Legacy Collection was good. So it's like, blah, right? Whereas with the X Collection, just this idea that I have to show them that I want Mega Man X so bad that I'm gonna throw money, basically, in a fire, right? In a trash can. Also, my voice is just disappearing. That's not good, because we haven't even gotten to the actual review yet. So yeah, kinda sucks. The Zero Collection, I mean, that's the case, I don't really regret buying it, because I do think the experience of playing the Zero games is largely superior to playing it, like, with other methods. I will say the most frustrating thing to me right now is, like, still, the cutscenes. But, like, on replays, it doesn't really matter, right? And then the thing that kind of bothered me is that the Western versions of the games are still censored. The Japanese versions of the different ROMs are, like, available, on the menu. You can just play it in Japanese. And then you actually get, like, the blood and stuff. And the blood, it's just so fucking satisfying, you know? To see the enemies just explode in these fountains of blood. Very cool. Big fan. But obviously, if you want to fucking understand what's going on... And, like, I mean, there's, like, so many intricacies with the menus and stuff. It seems kind of hard to me to, even, like, on replays, play it in Japanese. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking, dude, if I do replay it, like, I might still end up preferring just playing, like maybe on the Game Boy player, where you can play the English version, but with a patch that, puts the blood back in. That would still be preferable, I think. So playing that on, like, the Game Boy player, or on an FPGA emulator. I mean, the Analog Pocket is coming out at some point. And then, I mean, that's gonna replace the Game Boy player for me. But yeah, overall, not the worst Capcom remaster thing. It's like on the level where I would recommend buying it, probably. The X Collection, don't buy that. Don't buy either of them, they're fucking terrible. It's like, you have to consider the fact that the second collection is a little bit better in terms of the ports, right? The games, they run and play a little bit better than the first Legacy Collection. But then also, all those games are fucking garbage. Like X5 and X6 and X7 are not good. Not good games. X8 seems pretty alright. Have not really played X8 yet, but don't buy the second Legacy Collection just for X8. And then, I mean, the first Legacy Collection is like... I mean, X1 is a masterpiece. X2 and 4 are pretty good. X2, I'd say, is better than 4. Personally. My opinion. I know people really fuck with 4. It's personally not really one of my favorites. It's like a decent 7. Light 7, maybe. Yeah. I had, like, really detailed points and stuff. It's the same thing with Mega Man Classic. I forget all my opinions on Mega Man Classic. I had, like, super detailed sort of thoughts. Oh, this is what these games do, what this game does well, and then this game does, like, slightly better or slightly worse, blah, blah, blah. I forgot all of that shit by now. I think I need to play through all of them again. But, so... I mean, even with the first Legacy Collection, right? Mega Man X Legacy Collection. X3 is garbage. Not a good game. I will fight you. Like, people still fucking... They do not get what's wrong with some of those games. Just people who think X5 is fine upset me so much. I want to punch people like that. Fuck, dude. It's so obviously not good. It's so obviously just sloppily and, fucking just without thought designed. English very good right now. English very good today. I realize I'm losing myself in, like, a ramble about the whole series again when I'm here to talk about Zero specifically. Zero 2 was my first exposure to Mega Man, period. I had this, like, a burned disc with GBA ROMs and, like, the GBA emulator from my uncle at the time. It was very cool, but also, I mean, I was a stupid fucking kid. I did not know how to download ROMs yet, so I was really stuck with just what was on that disc, right? So, for example, I finished Golden Sun, on that emulator with the ROM that was on there, and I was always like, "Fuck, dude! Like, how does the fucking series continue?" Blah blah. Like, I want to know what happens next. And then it was only later when I realized, oh shit, there's like, I saw in the store like a copy of Golden Sun. Was it The Lost Age? Fuck, dude, I want to play that right now. Honestly, like, thinking about it, I want to play some Golden Sun, dude. And yeah, Zero 2 was also on there, and I did not speak English yet. I did not comprehend English at the time yet. The game was not in German. Did not know what the fuck I was doing, but like, in a weird way, I think almost the fact that Zero 2 was the one on there was kinda cool, because the intro of Zero 2, like, to this day, is like one of the coolest intros in a game ever. Like, if you don't know about it, it's like the ending of Zero 1, Zero is like separated from his group, and then he just fucking, he's like, you know, he's like lost, he's in the desert, and he's like, the Zero 2, you see him at the start walking through the desert, he has like this fucking code. It's kind of like the fucking, remember the Halo 5 trailer at E3 one time? Where it's like, oh, this like figure in a fucking code, and then oof, the code disappears and you see it's Master Chief. It's kind of like that. And then Zero's like walking through the desert, like through the sandstorm, and you have this fucking text crawl explaining what happened, like, oh, it's been years since he fought fucking Neo Arcadia, and like, blah blah blah. These battles have lost meaning for him, all this shit. And then there's this whole fucking group of enemies that come from the other side of the screen, and they're about to attack you, and Zero's like, he just takes his fucking coat off. You see like this cool fucking ass anime still images, and just this close-up of his face, and it looks so fucking badass, and then he just says, let's go. And oh my god, like, that still gets me. But then obviously as a kid, it left such a fucking huge impression, and I feel like had I started with any other Zero game, even though 2 is like not my favorite, right, now that I've played all of them for real, 2 is not my favorite, but like, it left such a fucking strong impression when I was a kid that I always said to myself, yeah, fuck, I want to play this. And then obviously I didn't get very far into it, because A, English, B, that's hard. It's a hard game. Yeah, and then, I mean, later, I actually played through Zero 1 on the Wii U. Like, years, fucking, like, maybe, like, speaking from today's perspective, it must have been, like, maybe 4 years ago, something like that. I played through Zero 1, enjoyed it, and I played it with sort of the conscious intent to eventually play the whole series, but then I never did, and now we're here, right? So I'll say, the thing that always struck me, I mean, like, by that point, I think maybe after I played Zero 1, I also played through the whole classic series and then most of Mega Man X, right? And then I just get a way stronger appreciation for those games, even though, that was the thing, right? I always thought, fuck, dude, I need to play the other Mega Man games, but also, Zero, in terms of the mechanics, is so inherently more satisfying than those other games. Like, you compare X to Zero, and obviously there's a lot of direct similarities, right? They have the dash, they have the wall jump, blah blah blah. But Zero, everything is just, like, the speed and the gravity and like the tightness of everything is just ramped up slightly. X noticeably feels way floatier than the Zero series, and like a lot slower and just a lot more measured in its pace. And obviously you don't have a fucking sword. In Zero, you have a fucking sword, and it's the coolest fucking thing. And it just, when you first lay hands on the Zero games, you're like, oh my god, this is like the best. Just dashing around really fast, and like the jumps are super snappy, right? You jump and you're immediately on the ground again. Same with the wall jumps, and like I said, the sword, it just makes such short work of the enemies that you just keep fucking dashing and like moving forward. It's so fucking satisfying. So I always had this idea in my head, dude, once I play the Zero series, I'm gonna, like, this is probably gonna be it's probably gonna be like my favorite Mega Man thing, right? And I mean, mechanically, just like controlling Zero still is the most fun thing to me, sort of, in Mega Man. I do find it more fun than X, but I don't, like, having played all the games now, I agree with everyone that 0-3 is the best one, but I think 0-3 is like a decent 8. To use the Fantana system. I don't think it's as good as like Mega Man X1, which is, to me, is a 10. Even though, again, like I said, mechanically, I found X1 not quite as satisfying as 0. I'm gonna explain why that is. Probably now. Yeah, right now. Actually, wait, let me look at my notes again. So, my notes say, games have the most inherently satisfying mechanics in Mega Man, ... but are built around them in odd ways, and then, comma, progression of the series. I guess that's what I'm going to talk about. So, you have to consider, obviously, since they're GBA games, like, they continue a lot of stuff from X, but then adapt it to the form factor of the GBA. The screen is a lot smaller, and as a result, like, Zero sprite is relatively a lot bigger than X's sprite was in the X games. And you see way less of the environment. So I feel like, I think Inti Creates, I need to look up like the history of Inti Creates, sort of what they did before the Zero series, but like, obviously Inti, they go on to like refine this formula and like carry it over into other series and stuff, like Gunvolt. Like, sort of looking at it from that angle, you can see they always had sort of the same philosophy. Like, everything should be super snappy, and like, everything should be super fucking fast. So maybe it wasn't owed so much to the GBA, right? I genuinely get more of this impression, yeah, they just kind of designed it in a way that made sense to them. Like, just the way Zero feels. And then they just kind of dealt with what the GBA is, you know? I think 0, 1, and 2, and even some of the later games, they have very bad instances of screen crunch, where, you just cannot see what the fuck is going on, right? Everything is just kind of out of view, and, like, enemies and hazards in general, appear way too suddenly and way too quickly. And obviously it's odd because just your movement speed is so fast that you wanna move at a rapid pace, but you feel like you can't because you're just gonna get yourself in trouble, right? So you take it more slowly than you actually want. And I think so 0, 1 is kind of weird. I guess the first thing that's important to address is like, yeah, every new entry kind of they just kept building on what came before and like just adding more and more stuff. It's very rare that they would like remove a thing from one of the previous games. I mean 0, 2 to me is the weakest game in the series because they did make some changes to like the structure and like the story feels a little bit more involved. But then I think a lot of the stages have more strict sort of requirements on how you need to platform. They removed one of the most fun fucking weapons from 0, 1, which was like the pogo thing. It was very cool. Fuck, dude, yeah, I loved like just the way you pogo off of enemies with the lance thing felt very unique. Even, I mean, 0, 3 brings it back, but even in that game, it doesn't feel quite the same. So 0, 1 is like this very weird game where there's barely any story. It feels very, let's say rushed. Like, you go through the same, like, the way the game is structured is just odd. It's just odd because, you have different environments, and then in those environments you take on different missions, right? So you keep returning, to the same levels, essentially, but you just do different things in them. And clearly it's like a budget time concession, right? And there's this weird thing where if you fail a mission, like if you game over on a mission, you actually permanently lose access to that mission. You can't try again. So you kind of, I mean, the thing is, you really can. It's not advisable to play the game this way. You should just restart. You should just save before every mission, and then if it goes wrong, you just load the save. But obviously, with the remaster, with the Zero Collection, it's fine because you can just use the new checkpoints, and you will never lose lives. So yeah, 0-1, and like it doesn't really have that many like things to play with yet. The weapons, the Zero system, the Zero series differs greatly from other Mega Man games in that the weapons are not like purely limited to projectile weapons. I mean, that was already kind of true with like X4, for example. But here it really is like, you don't get a weapon from every boss. It really is like you get 3 main weapons maybe, and they play pretty differently. But then in totality, there is less to play with than in the other Mega Man games, and it really does feel sort of laser focused on the series as it goes on. There's way less of a focus on, okay, here's like a platforming challenge, and then we construct it, like we place the enemies and the hazards in like these super specific ways, and those ways they favor sort of different setups or different strategies, blah blah blah. Like the series, it feels like it's, with the first 2 games, it feels like it's kind of like that, and then it just moves away from that more and more as it goes on. Well, kind of. 0-3 is the one, right? 0-3, that's everyone's favorite game, and I feel like my thesis is that 0-3 is the DMC4 of Mega Man, and that... Well, okay, no, it's not the most accurate comparison, but like, my impression of 0-3 is that they just said fuck it, they focused entirely on just fun mechanics, and then made the levels so basic and like malleable that you can just play around with the mechanics mostly. Like 0-3 generally has levels that are way more open, where there's generally fewer hazards, fewer complicated configurations of things, which facilitates just blasting through a level, right? It has this interesting pacing where I think you fight 8 Robot Masters, and then that's actually the halfway point of the game. You then get 8 more levels, and by that point, you actually have most of your upgrades already. Like, you have your most significant stuff, and obviously there's some like amount of freedom in the order in which you get things. But it really feels like consciously designed in such a way where it's like, yeah, okay, the first half is like kind of a classic Mega Man experience. You're still like getting your power-ups and like sort of getting acclimated to the game. And the second half, you just go crazy. You just have so much shit, and like nothing can stand in your way. The bosses die in like 3 hits. The speedruns for 0-3 are a fucking... I mean, for all of the games, really, but like 3 specifically are a sight to behold. Like I said, the levels are a lot more open. They facilitate really free-form movement, but also you have this fucking... What the fuck was it called again? Is it called... It was not the chain rod, it was not the triple rod, it was the recoil rod, that's what it was. The recoil rod is fucking amazing, oh my god. So you can charge it up, and then just bounce off of the floor or off enemies, and you go so fucking far. It's not the same as it was in 0-1. So I do kind of wish that you had both kind of options. You know, I wish you had the lance from 0-1 as well as the recoil rod. But holy fuck, like just the shit you can do with it, and just imagining how far you can take the game if you just know the levels well is amazing. And then with the bosses, they came up with this really interesting system where basically when you hit a boss, right, they will be immune to damage for a little bit. They will like flash white, kind of, and then you have to wait until that period is over, until you, before you can tack on more damage. Or so you think, because the way they actually handle it is, that every attack in the entire game, every single attack, has a value assigned to it. And, so, essentially, let's say your normal sword slash has, like, a value of 2. Let's say the normal sword combo is, like, it's, like, 3 hits, and then each hit, they have the values of 2, 3, and 4, right? If you want to attack on another attack, it has to, exceed the value of your most recent attack. So in this case, it has to be higher than 4. And now I said your combo, let's say it's like, it starts with value 2. That's because generally it's often actually better to attack from the air first. You're like a strike from midair, usually permits further attacks from the ground. And so like people just came up with all these crazy fucking ways. Like I said, in this way, you can basically ignore this damage limitation. You can just keep attacking the enemy while they're still in this, like, state. You don't have to wait for, like, the flash to be over. And that's fucking cool because it lets people just come up with all these crazy fucking creative combos to kill the bosses super fucking quickly. And it's really great. I'll say, though, at the same time, you have this, like, weakness system, of course, because it's Mega Man, right? Like, the enemies are just weak to certain elements. And, the elements... The thing that I always thought was weird about the Zero series is that you just apply the elements to yourself, and then it just kind of applies to every attack, right? You go into the menu, and then you say, okay, I want to be an ice guy right now, and then all your shit just gets an ice effect on top. It's just super pointless because, like, obviously there's no real decision making, right? You just open the menu and then you just choose the one that's the best right now, and that's it. And I feel like a lot of the bosses with those weaknesses just die so quickly already that you don't even really need to... Like, the incentive to get creative with the combos is not really there that much for, you know, a player on kind of my level. On my lower skill level, yeah, that's what I mean. And I think, I mean, 0-3 to me is, like, the worst offender of this. It feels like 0, 1, and 2, like, yeah, like, the bosses, at least, were kind of designed in such a way where even if you hit their weaknesses, they still kind of pose a challenge. In 0-3, it's a little bit too lopsided. I forget what exactly they did in 0-4. I think 0-4 is more like 0, 1, and 2, and, like, more like the other Mega Man games, where I think it was, like... Wasn't it, like... Yeah, I mean, you can do different moves with your separate weapons and stuff. You have, like, this weird input system. Yeah, for example, with your sword, you can either slash up or down or something, and then depending, like, each different kind of slash has, like, a different element applied to it. So you just kind of, you're kind of incentivized to use that move more, and then the fights are designed in such a way where it actually, like, it's an interesting experience to use that move against the boss. So 0-3, I also, I forgot most of my points. I think, the thing with the Inti creates is that I think they generally just had this thing where, and like they kept having this thing even after they finished with the 0 series, right? With Gunvolt, for example, that the mechanics are just way more important than everything else in those games. Like, the levels are super fucking basic, and it does kind of feel a bit unsatisfying, you know? To go, like, in 0-3, I did reach the point where it's like, yeah, I hadn't really mastered it. And, like, the game, it has all these, like, weird sub-mechanics with, like, RPG shit, and then you have to meet all these fucking crazy conditions to, like, unlock all the moves, but then it's like, I mean, the moves do kind of, they give you more options, but they also make the game linearly easier. So if you don't, like, if you play super well, you don't need all this shit, really, right? but then the only way to get all that shit is to play super well, right? If you don't play super well, it feels like you miss like half the game. And it's very, I mean, the grading is super harsh, right? You get a rank at the end of every level, and just the speed requirements are very harsh. Yeah. That's the thing, like, I feel like 0-3, it just would be this fucking insane god game if you were to master it and, like, get really good at it and then just play it in the most beautiful fucking ass way possible. If you don't, it's a very satisfying, crunchy action game. But, like, it does feel like a little bit of limp in places. I do think... Oh, 0-4 was the one where the ending was really badass. Yeah, 0-3 is pretty badass as well, but 0-4 is like the fucking god tier Kino ending. I think also there was like this idea that 0-3 was supposed to be the last one, and then they made 0-4. 0-4 is interesting because it feels way more like a traditional Mega Man game. Like, some of the RPG stuff feels just cut back a little bit. And has this very traditional structure of, okay, there's like 8 levels and you can play them in any order, and then you get shit from the bosses if you defeat them. And they had this interesting system. And yeah, I mean, I'll say also the level design feels more intentional. It feels like they don't want you to just fucking tear through and speedrun it as much, which... That's the thing, I think it kind of goes against the appeal. Like, with 0-3, I feel like the series kind of had found its direction. Where it wasn't really a Mega Man game anymore, it was just a crazy fucking speedrunning game. And then 0-4 kind of dials it back again a little bit. And yeah, the levels feel more sort of intentional, like there is like a way to play them. The hazards are pretty meticulously placed, and I do find them to be fun levels for the most part. I think 0-4 is pretty polished. I definitely prefer it over 0-1 and 2. I had this really cool mechanic where basically every level, there's like a weather system, and you can choose for each level either good or bad weather. So in good weather, the level is easier, but then in bad weather, even though the level is harder, but you get... extra rewards, right? You get some stuff from the boss. You get like extra moves and shit. And that's cool. For me, that's like the perfect way to handle it. I thought just this idea in the older Zero games, like, okay, you have to play the game perfectly and then you get a move. I think that's kind of lame. Whereas, just saying, okay, you get as many tries as you want, you just need to play the harder version of the level. That's way more reasonable and way more satisfying for me. And like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like you're just missing out completely. Yeah, I mean, 0, 1, and 2, they also had like this thing where your weapons get stronger the more you use them. And then in 0, 3, and 4, I think they just realized that that's stupid and like it just does not add anything to the game. They just give you the highest level of fucking whatever for every weapon immediately, except there's some special moves that you do need to still unlock. But they're not hidden behind grinding, they're just unlockables, right? Man, I would be super curious to just play 0, 3 with like all the upgrades. Just what that feels like. I think you can do that actually in the collection as well. You can just turn on like God mode basically. That'd be kind of neat. I think I want to do that. Shit, what the fuck did I want to say? Oh yeah, there's like still some weird shit where it's like, you need to find like these weird chips and like fucking, I think 0-4 was you craft them together and then you get more mobility options and stuff, and I think that stuff is just so fucking dumb. I think, honestly, in the modern day, I could just see a Mega Man game that's a little bit more like a character action game, you know, where it feels a little bit more persistent, like a journey where you just go through kind of a series of levels and then you upgrade your, like, maybe you get money, right, and then you just choose which moves you want, from like a shop or something. I feel like something like that should be the model, you know? Not fucking grind this random material or meet these super nebulous requirements. Like I mean, Gunvolt is the same way still, you know? I love Gunvolt, but I feel like just these games just kneecap their potential a little bit in a lot of places. And actually, I want to check out 20XTX. It was like this roguelike kind of Mega Man game. It seemed kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, I do like that you can play the levels out of order, but I feel like there has to be like my ideal modern kind of Mega Man game. It's like the kind of system that I just mentioned, right? You get. Or maybe not Mega Man game, but like at least like Zero game, right? A game that sort of continues the ideas from Mega Man Zero. I would like to see like just some sort of currency system, and then you just buy your upgrades, right? And it's like a DMC or something where you can just buy whatever you want from the very start. You can just prioritize your own shit. And then there's no grinding, or there's no, like, materials. There's none of that shit, right? And then, yeah, maybe the game was just a little bit, like, longer, or, like, has some kind of, like, New Game Plus with harder modes, or just something like that. I don't have the answer right now. Maybe, like, something like 20XTX, like... Or, yeah, maybe, yeah. I mean, if it is a Metroidvania or something, maybe that's the way, yeah. Just make it a Metroidvania. I mean, ZX is a Metroidvania, right? So I'm thinking it's like just a big world, and then you can still fight bosses out of order, but it also feels like kind of a bigger adventure thing, you know, where you go through the same areas again, and like maybe the enemies change a little bit, and then you have reasons to like use your upgrades and stuff. Yeah. I'm thinking that's the perfect formula. I need to play ZX and see if maybe ZX is like the exact thing I'm looking for. Yeah. But then ZX, I think you don't start with the sword. ZX immediately doesn't seem as crazy as like 003, you know, mechanically. Maybe that's something I should make. You know, just a Mega Man kind of esque Metroidvania. Eventually. Once I get super famous and have a lot of money. Yeah. I guess that's all I can say about Mega Man. All I have to say, I should say. On Mega Man Zero. I'll make like an addendum to this probably once I play the ZX games. Maybe I'll just tweet about them. Who knows? I don't know if it's like enough for like a full video. I mean, it's crazy that I've talked about this for 50 minutes. I did not expect that. I expected this to be like a short, cute little video, but there was a lot to say. Yeah, dude. So it's July 1st. This was supposed to come out like yesterday. But I'm almost on time. I'm gonna release the June stuff today or tomorrow, like very soon. And then I was almost on time with that. And then with the July stuff, hopefully I'm gonna be on time. I mean, the July stuff, it's gonna be Hunter x Hunter. I finished Hunter x Hunter. I can talk about that already. I'm gonna record that soon. And then I still need to finish The Last of Us 2. Last of Us 2, weird game. I'll say that much already. Yeah. Hope you have a great day. I had a great day. Like, something really good happened today. I'm very excited. Goodbye.